Hello, adventurers! Thank you very much for joining us for this here Adventure Hour, where we live read, argue our way through a choose-your-own-adventure while armchair traveling through the world. Today, I am joined by the absolutely lovely Kahli Scott. Kahli, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello, likewise. Thank you for having me.
Kahli's joining us from New Zealand, and she is a writer. And then, of course, I'm joined, as always, by my lovely co-host here, Brett Ludwig. Hi, Brett.
Hello.
All right. So as we do at the start of every Adventure Hour, we have a quick look at the adventure that we are going to be taking today. So this is The Curse of the Bramble Spirit. A ghost ship has been sighted in Bramble Bay. It's up to you to save Sandgate from inheriting its curse. You are a seasoned ghost hunter, trained to remove destructive and restless spirits. But this next case in Sandgate will test you to the limit. A cursed ghost ship known as the Bramble Spirit is sailing the waters of Bramble Bay. How did it meet its doom? Why is it here? How will you send it on its way before it's too late? It's up to you to battle paranormal forces and save Sandgate from the ship's deadly curse. Bum,
Dun,
bum,
dun, dun.
bum.
There you go.
Love it. Alrighty, so as we do always, we are going to dive straight into this adventure. Kahli, do you want to take part in the voice acting, or do you just want to take part in the arguing?
I think I will leave the voice acting to the professionals, but very happy to
There are
help
no
arguing
professionals
about others.
There are
More professional than me.
There are zero professionals here.
Give yourself some credit.
Beautiful. Okay, lovely. So, Brett, I can start with the narration if you like.
Sure.
And you can dive in on the characters.
Sure.
We are starting here in the lovely seaside suburb of Brisbane known as Sandgate. So we have found ourselves at the Sandgate train station. There's lots of beautiful jacaranda trees around. There's some nice street art on various buildings. We have the train station just there, beautiful clean lines, lots of solar panels because Queensland gets much sun being in Australia. And we have the delightful artwork of one of our reoccurring creators who has come on Adventure Hour, Clare Neal, who is the absolutely lovely artist for this particular piece as well. So we can kind of see the lamppost that she was referencing over here in the distance. And so now we get to begin our story. Ghost hunters, let's do this. The moment you step off the train at Sandgate Station, you can smell the salt in the air. This station is the portal between city and sea and has welcomed visitors to the coastal village for over 100 years. You'd love to head straight for the foreshore and dive into a pile of fish and chips, but that's not why you've come today.
Dang.
Right. Sandgate is being plagued by a haunting. And it's not something as simple as a spectre in the town hall or a poltergeist in the Sacred Heart School. This is bigger. As locals wrote in their desperate letters, a ghost ship, the Bramble Spirit, has been sighted sailing the waters of Bramble Bay. Normally, you wouldn't get caught up in ghostly affairs offshore. The ocean is full of mysteries, and they're too dark and deep for even a seasoned ghost hunter like you to solve. But this ghost ship is connected to Sandgate, and its curse has reached the sand, creeping into the avenues and shops and houses of the village. The curse has manifested in many ways. People have become mysteriously ill or tormented by bad luck. Some have gone missing. Eerie apparitions have popped up in unlikely places. Music with no source has floated through the streets, unnerving yet hypnotizing. The weather has been dark and miserable, and it's becoming hard to remember the times when Sandgate was a seaside getaway with visitors who would flock to it. As a ghost hunter, it's up to you to solve the mystery of the Bramble Spirit and send it back to the afterlife where it belongs. The train leaves the station with a rumble, but long after it's disappeared from the platform, the sound remains. You realize it's not coming from the train, it's coming from the ground itself, almost like an earthquake, although you don't get those in these parts. You've felt this sensation before, of a room moving on its own, chandeliers swaying from the ceiling, cups falling off counters to shatter to the ground. It's the sensation of a troubled spirit. But instead of a single room, the entire town seems to be shaking from its core. There's no time to waste. Where do you head first? Do you start where you always do at the beginning of an investigation, at the Sandgate Library, where you can consult your trusty books on the history of this Bramble Spirit? Or do you follow the rumbling to the old Sandgate post office, where you can see a small crowd has gathered? Brett?
Well, so it sounds like our protagonist here has some experience with, like, there's a method to madness here. So, like, you know, the initial idea of going against years of experience would seem folly, right? We would want to be like, okay, this is our system, this is how we go with it. But I suppose this is kind of the first time we're dealing with a spirit that is not of, like, in our regular trade, right? Like, this is something that is kind of half water, half land. So maybe improvisation is kind of the best way to go here.
It sounds like you have not convinced yourself of either option.
Oh, oops. I was making the choice, right.
Kahli, do you have any thoughts that you want to throw into Brett's decision making?
I mean, I normally love a library and books, but if a crowd is gathered outside the post office, I feel like that's pretty intriguing, and it would also be a good chance to meet some of the locals and chat to some of the locals, which could be just as valuable a source of information than the books. So I'm leaning towards going to where the crowd is.
I suppose it's like an introversion versus extroversion choice, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
I also I like the little bit of the FOMO argument in there. It's like, oh, there's a crowd gathering. Oh, I mean,
Something happening.
What's this all about? What's going on?
Can't miss out.
Right. So are you going to cave to the FOMO, Brett, or are you going to be methodical about this?
Well, when you ask it that way, I want to be methodical, but I think my actual choice, Emily, is that I want to go see what the crowd's doing. Yeah.
All right, let's do it. We're off to the old post office, just down the road. Beautiful. Gone past it.
There it is.
There it is. Okay, so for those of you who are playing at home on a podcast, audio only, we are at the historic Sandgate Post Office Hotel. So post office / bar and grill, because, you know, you get thirsty while you are reading those letters. I think that may be what's missing from libraries, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely helps in the decision making.
I just realized that I picked the wrong location here in the app, so I'm going to reset my story.
Oh,
yes.
Did you? Was it the wrong location, Emily, or did you just
I consciously wanted to go to the library. Exactly. I was like, ha ha. You guys thought you were making the choice, but
it's a rogue librarian over here.
Right? That's exactly what's going on here. I'm going to turn off my autoplay as well so that we don't get, as much as I do love Divi's audio work there, we are going to this beautiful post office, which has some very dramatic images associated with it. So as I said, we're at this historic Sandgate Post Office Hotel. Like a lot of places in Brisbane, it has verandas. So, verandas that are kind of 2 stories. So you have one veranda on the bottom, one veranda at the top, with those iron lattice work Reglings, it has not only a post office but a bar and grill. And if we look closely at the artwork for this, it appears like the building is crying, which to me feels very dramatic, very water-based, and very tension building. So. If we have a look, we also have a lot of kind of palm trees around the area, typical of Brisbane, several jacaranda trees which come up in these beautiful purple and red flowers during spring. And it's a very green space, lots of lovely parks and whatnot in this area. So, Brett, take it away.
I'm going to narrate this one?
You are indeed.
Okay. The old post office has changed over the years, but you still get a chill when you contemplate its facade. That round window on top sits like an eye looking over the village. You've seen things in that window before, faces too pale for this world. But today, the window is empty. The weather vane atop the post office roof is acting erratically. It's moving to and fro with winds that aren't actually there. You approach the small crowd that's gathered on the pavement, and you ask the nearest person, Miss Lou, from the hairdresser, what's happening. You've noticed the rumbling has grown stronger here, and you're struggling to keep your balance.
We were inside having a chat,
Miss Lou tells you,
when this rumbling started and the walls began to leak.
The walls began to leak? Miss Lou nods wildly.
Almost as if they were crying. Little cracks appeared, and the manager told us to get out before
two powerful jets of water explode from the post office roof. The fountains stream high into the air, and soon water is gushing from the circular window too, cascading over the balconies and onto the ground. The post office is flooding all over like a suburban waterfall. You pull Miss Lou out of the way as the pavement around you pools with water.
These are my best shoes,
she exclaims.
Wet shoes are the least of our worries,
someone comments. You look over and see Magdalena Moon standing calmly in the water, her long purple skirts sopping wet. You're not sure if you're glad to see Magdalena. The strange woman claims to be like you. She also deals with supernatural forces, but while you're concerned with spirits of the dead, Magdalena trades with spirits of the elemental world. Fairies, sprites, dryads, goblins. You've never quite bought into it. You know ghosts are real, but fairies are just silly little characters from storybooks. Normally, Magdalena only gets in your way. Burst pipes, you say to Magdalena, nodding at the flooding building. You're keen to show her you know what's going on. The angry ghosts of that Bramble Spirit must have hijacked the waterways here. It's time we sort that ship out. Oh, maybe was that Magdalena? Was that me?
No, that's you. Yep.
Right, great. You notice the water from the post office is moving in a very deliberate direction, flowing across the street and over towards the shops on Brighton Road.
Yes.
Magdalena agrees.
You'd be wise to pay attention to the water.
But pipes aren't the only vessels in Sandgate that hold water. If the curse of the Bramble Spirit is traveling through waterways, you can't ignore Sandgate's key water features, its lagoons. Which water lead do you decide to follow? Do you follow the rapidly moving trail of water from the post office? Or do you head to Einbumpen Lagoon? Is that correct? Einbumpen?
Einbumpen, Kahli? I think it's Einbumpen.
I'm going with Einbumpen. All right.
So, are we going to go to one of the famous water gathering spots
I see.
in the heart of Sandgate, a lagoon? Or are we going to be following this trail of water from the crying building?
I think this is the more interesting one, the trail of water from the crying building. Just like, maybe like, personally, I think if I was walking about, I would probably go to see the more famous one. But like, thinking of myself as a character in the story, I think I'd as a detective, be like, well, this is supernatural water flowing from a freaking post office that we've talked about, like having this spirit travel, and fast moving water is a great way for it to travel. So I'd imagine it would be attracted to that as opposed to a lagoon, which doesn't strike me as like, quick transport for the spiritually endowed.
What do you think, Kahli? Was it? Did we get that right? Was it N Bumpin?
Iron bumping. Sorry, I had to tell you
Iron
a
bumping.
fire alarm. I've just had to do the worst time ever for a fire drill, unplanned fire drill. All the drama going on here. Iron bumping is the name.
Iron bumping. Although I say that it's a mighty big coincidence there that you've ended up with a fire drill at the time when this post office is bursting with water, as though all of the fire.
It's true.
Sprinklers have gone off. So that just sounds like some spirits playing havoc. Yeah. Do you have any feelings around, like, should we be following this weirdly flowing water? Should we be going to a lagoon? Any thoughts to throw into the works here?
I think I'd be wanting to follow the water. I feel like if we're starting to maybe work with the theory that the spirit is in the water with the connection to the ocean and the sea, and there's this mysterious trickle of water, then it's almost acting like a bit of a signpost, and I think that's what I'd be inclined to do.
And we're not annoyed by the fact that Magdalena has very pompously been like, yes, you should pay attention to the water. We're like, we know what we're doing, Magdalena. Like, we agree with you, but we're going because we mean to go, not because you told us.
Exactly. We're definitely annoyed at that. But like you said, you can be annoyed at someone's opinion whilst also begrudgingly agreeing with them, just so long as you note that it's your own decision.
The whole counterculture theory, right? People who separate and do the opposite of what culture does are just as controlled by culture if they just continue to do whatever the opposite of what of mainstream society does.
Mm-hmm.
It's the conundrum of counterculture.
I have a friend who is like the personification of counterculture, where she will like 100% do the opposite of what you recommend every time. Okay, so
predictable.
That's right, exactly. Yes. And we've learnt from that. Okay, so I know what we're looking for here, and I wonder if we can see it on the street view. Oh, yes, it's still there. Woohoo! In the street view, because I was worried that it would be hidden behind the bushes. The thing is, how do we get in close enough so that we can, like, kind of see it? All right. So we are looking at this strange piece right here on the sidewalk. Mm-hmm. The fish fountain.
Love it.
Mm-hmm. All of the emblematic ocean pieces here today. All right. So we've gone to the fish fountain, Memorial Park. The trail of water from the flooded post office has led you to the odd-looking water bubbler outside the Town Hall Bakery. The bubbler gives the impression of two fish kissing their golden lips and tails hooked together. The water trail pulls around the fountain. You're not sure what to do when you hear the distinct sound of kissing coming from the art piece. You imagined it, surely. But there it is again. The slippery sound of someone blowing kisses, followed by a giggle. Does anyone want to try that sound effect?
Over to you, Brett. There's the giggle.
You move closer to the fountain. When the fountain turns on by itself, spraying a thick jet of water at you, you jump back and catch the unmistakable end of a golden tail disappearing into the fountain's plug. Wary of getting shot in the face again, you approach the fountain with your hands outstretched this time. The giggle you hear turns into a song. It's beautiful. Lyrics in a faraway language, a linting melody, the sounds of the ocean. You can feel the water soaking your shoes, but you don't care because the song is the only thing that matters.
Are you going to keep doing Magdalena?
Snap out of it, a voice yells. Somebody shakes your shoulders. You feel as if you're waking from a deep dream to find the bold face of Magdalena Moon peering into yours. She looks satisfied. She taps your nose. I see. You can hunt 100 ghosts, but you're a fool for the charm of a mermaid's song.
Mermaids?
You feel all clogged up, as if there's water in your ears and you can't get it out. Mermaids, Magdalena says. They're the reason for the Bramble Spirit's demise. Now they're bringing their sinister charms into the waterways of Sandgate. Luckily, I've got my own song that'll banish them. Follow me. Do you follow Magdalena to the leaning tree on the foreshore to see if her song will send off these supposed mermaids, or follow the echoing whispers of the song you can still hear ringing in your ears to the wave sculpture? So, again, this is a case of, do we decide that Magdalena is right and begrudgingly follow her? Or do we decide that your senses are still more highly tuned than hers and we're going to follow this song?
Oh, I think we have a different dichotomy. I think there's an efficiency and team decision going on here. Whether Magdalena is right or wrong, she's going to go off and sing her song, right? Like she's going to go to do that whether you follow her or not. So if this is the solution to the mermaids, then the mermaid problem is essentially solved, right? And we already have established that we don't work well with Magdalena. So I don't think her being right or wrong is really here nor there, hither nor thither, mermaid nor merman. And I would just piss off in my own direction and go with my instincts.
Nice. I like that. It's efficient. It's mercenary. You can go take the fire for that. I will go this direction and see if there's something else that's less dangerous.
That's much more logical than I thought. You're right. If she's going to go sing her song, it's going to happen whether you go with her or not. So
I think so.
At least we're giving ourselves two options here. I mean, even before you said that, I was thinking I'd want to follow the mermaid song, partly to, get rid of Magdalena and not have to team up with her, but also it's a very it's very hypnotizing song. You're almost possessed at this point. And while Magdalena's told you to snap out of it, shake yourself out of it, I think there's still going to be this allure that you feel, and I don't actually know how easy it would be to tear yourself away from that. So I think we'd be wanting to follow that sound.
Beautiful. All right. So for those of us listening on the podcast, we have been at this very lovely blue, red, and gold fish fountain by the main shops along Brighton Road here in Sandgate, next to the beautiful Memorial Park and a lovely clock tower in the distance. And so we have now decided that we are going to be going to the wave sculpture, which is down on the foreshore where we finally get to see the sea. So we're going to move our way to here and then get a little bit closer. I wonder if that photosphere will put us in the middle of this sculpture. Oh no, apparently Google has a photosphere and then has made it imaginary. That's fine. Okay. So we have followed the siren song. We've let Magdalena go and do her song on her own. And we have ended up at the wave sculpture, which honestly, based on the artwork, which is a skull over mermaid fins and water, does not appear to go well for us.
Apparent, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, Brett, would you do the honors of
Drowning.
of narrating?
The melody leads you down Cliff Street, growing louder and faster as you approach the sea. But instead of feeling haunted by the song, you feel a thrill. Something about the sounds makes you feel calm and at ease. You come to a stop at the sculpture outside the church, which depicts the small, delicate curls of a steel wave. You stand by the sculpture with your hand on the metal. The wave feels cool and wet, almost like the real thing. Out in the ocean, the water is calm and inviting. You can see a vast figure in the distance that's making its way slowly to shore. And as it gets closer, you see it's the Bramble Spirit. But the ghostly figures on board the ship don't look like wretched souls. In fact, they're smiling and calling out to something in the waves around them. Magnificent, iridescent tails duck in and out of the water. The tails are vibrant hues of pink and blue and yellow, and they're attached to the beautiful golden torsos of mermaids and mermen that are darting in and out of the waves, singing their song, beckoning the ghost sailors and you and anyone who wants to listen to come join them in their glorious realm under the water. Well, this is why people have gone missing, you realize? This is why Sandgate seems so bleak. It's because there's a wonderful world under the ocean that you've all been missing out on. The metal wave begins to stretch and grow wider and larger and more real until it is real, and it's towering over you, threatening to crash. But why would you run away? Just like the song is telling you in hypnotic tones and mesmerizing melodies, you step into the wave and let it engulf you. You're ready to join the mermaids and the ghosts of the Bramble Spirit in the watery depths of eternity. You hope it's as nice down there as the song promises. Glug, 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 glug.
The end. Bum, bum, bum. Damn it, Magdalena and her smug correctness.
All right, well, I didn't even feel like I was disagreeing with Magdalena. Dang.
I mean, might end up a mermaid. Maybe. That's nice.
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's that's lovely. And I don't know, I feel like, and the only way we can check this is by going and seeing what happens at the other ending, which I'm down for. But it seems like Magdalena's song did jack shit.
Well,
maybe she didn't get there in time. Maybe you walk quicker than her.
See,
well,
and
yeah.
if you waited like 5 more minutes, maybe she would have saved the day.
We as readers are not necessarily in on the lore and the magic system that applies to this particular universe, so we don't know like if Magdalena's song, just like if she sings it directly to a mermaid and that mermaid pisses off, or if she sings loud and proud and then it reverberates in the whole town like a magical song, right? So we don't have that info. Our character probably does, but
Well, the character, this is the first time they've dealt with the ocean, right? So they are a ghost hunter, but this is the first time that they've like dealt with ocean related things, so they may even not have known that, right?
So I'm gonna meta story and say the author is proposing what you proposed, which was do we sucker in our pride, and do we accept that Magdalena knows more than us in this situation and go with her, and the other choice is to be stubborn and go on your own way. So I think, having read that ending, I think that was the original choice that you gave was the choice the author was offering us, and my interpretation of it was not necessarily wrong, but it was not, I think, didn't quite fit into the story.
Kahli, is he correct?
I tried to actually remove myself as an author from this decision making and really try to step into the character and think about what would the character do. As the author, obviously, you know what's right and wrong, but if every decision that the character made was what you would do, it probably wouldn't be a very interesting story, which is the beauty of these kinds of stories.
Right,
so I was really just in the headspace of thinking about the character. And like I said, they are from out of town. They're not used to water spirits. And they definitely felt the allure of that song. So I felt like stepping into those shoes, that's what they would have done.
Do.
Even if it didn't end up that well for
them. For those of you who are listening on the podcast, there is this sculpture, which is kind of like these big arching black tentacles. Almost. So I'm pretty sure they actually have lights in them, don't they, Carlin? I think that they light up at nighttime.
Potentially, yeah. Whenever I'm there, it's normally during the day, but that you could be right about that.
And so it's called the Wave, but it also kind of looks a little bit like octopus tentacles in a way. And in the ground around the sculpture, I'm pretty sure there were a bunch of like poems carved in. You can't read them on the street view, but you can kind of see them there as well.
Maritime, sea themed poems and quotes, I believe.
Yeah, and so it's surrounded by, so it's got the ocean on one side, which is during low tide, it's like this very long, extensive kind of series of mud flats. And then during high tide, it kind of comes right up to the sea wall. And where all of the bush is, there's actually a hill that you can climb up to, which is a lovely lookout over the bay. And then opposite this wave sculpture around all of the palm trees is this old wooden church. With this beautiful kind of rose, what do they call that? Stained glass window.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, it looks very beachy. Mixed, if you kind of mixed a church with a beach shack, that's kind of the vibe that it gives off a little bit. So do we want to see what would have happened if we'd gone with Magdalena?
I do. My guess is it'll at least show that like something about her being like, my guess is the feel of it will be that you should trust other people and they will handle it kind of thing. That's my guess based on the other, what happened in the other choice.
I wasn't paying enough attention as to how far down we went, but there should be a tree that like leans all the way over.
Is it
That's
that
what
one?
we're looking for.
Yeah, it's almost like a
horizontally it goes.
It's kind of like a seat, yeah.
Oh, there it is, right there. Boop, boop, boop. This one.
Yes.
So horizontal.
It's lounge,
almost
kind of like
flat. Exactly.
Good job, Lone Tree.
Yeah.
Lazy tree.
It is. It is a lazy
down.
tree. All right, Brett. Do you want to take away the leaning tree?
No. Does the leaning tree have a voice part? Just kidding. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the first time you've trusted Magdalena Moon to help you with an investigation, and you hope you've made the right choice. As you stand leaning by the tree, looking out at the ocean, it's undeniable that the normally picturesque scene seems wrong. There's a thick mist that's formed on the horizon, and through it you see the intimidating figure of the Bramble Spirit appearing and disappearing, like a light flicking on and off. The ocean is writhing with movement, and you see the slippery swish of a tail, too large for a fish, rise up and duck back down again. What would you know? After all her mad ramblings about fairies and tree sprites, it looks like Magdalena's right about the mermaids. Magdalena pulls out a collection of silver instruments from her beaded bag. She takes the complicated-looking bells and whistles and hands you a triangle.
Can you manage that?
She asks you. You snatch it from her. Of course you can manage the triangle. Excuse me. Magdalena has had, that is not written in the
It's implied.
yeah. Magdalena has an unfamiliar string instrument under her chin, and a collection of bells attached to her wrists and ankles. She starts playing, blending the sounds beautifully together. Then she begins to sing, and you're astounded. The sound of Magdalena's voice has often annoyed you, but she has the singing voice of an angel. As she's instructed, you tap that silver triangle in time with her song. You hum your own background melody as the power of the music overcomes you. Oh, I like this path. This is nice. Faintly, you can hear the mermaids singing from the sea, trying to fight your song with theirs. But Magdalena's good. Magdalena knows exactly what she's doing. Together, you continue to play the music, feeling it growing louder and fiercer and more beautiful with every note. You see the waves of the ocean churning as the mermaids become more frustrated, their tails flicking to and fro. In the distance, the silhouette of the Bramble Spirit hovers, not knowing whether to go forward or back. You play and play until your fingers ache. Ding, 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 ding. And your mouth is numb, and all you can hear is the music, and all you can see is the sea. And finally, the ocean grows still again. The mist on the horizon clears. A beam of sunshine breaks through the cloud. You slow the melody, coming back to earth once more. There's no longer any sign of the mermaids or the Bramble Spirit. You've driven them away. You hadn't realized a crowd had gathered around you until they begin to applaud. As much as it pains you to do so, you take a step back and bow to Magdalena, directing all the applause onto the woman who had once been your rival. You'll be paying more attention to what she says in the future. After all, she's the one who saved the day. Really. Although, you did a great job playing that triangle. Cute. That's super cute. I love it.
You definitely on point with your suspicions, Brad, about it is a lesson to listen to other people and let them help. And I just want to give a shout out to Clare, the artist, because I think if you're just following one branch of the story, you might not actually notice how beautifully those images parallel with each other.
Yeah, 100%.
Between this one and then the previous storyline with the skull. When you see them kind of one after the other, you can see that really nice parallel that she's drawn there.
Mm-hmm. And this is just a beautiful work of art in of itself, along with being kind of thematically paralleled. It's just really, really darn pretty.
Mm-hmm. So beautiful. Thanks, Claire, for your gorgeous artwork. And Divi Schae, he's the one who did the sound design for this piece, and Kevin Powe is the original narrator, and like all of this pairs together beautifully. And so Divi's version of this kind of haunting melody is a lot of fun, and yes, you can hear the triangle in it.
The most important part.
I just imagine Will Ferrell just like standing there beside Magdalena being like, cowbell! just
I've got a fever, and the only
needs more cowbell. And I love in that you actually give credit where credit's due. So you're not trying to steal the credit. There's themes of discrediting or not believing the woman, and in this case we have. Although that didn't come into our previous decision making, but you can kind of see that theme coming through here, and you're like, no, I listened, I gave, giving credit where credit's due. Happy to have been a part of. So yeah, very cute ending. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Really, that's a warm, fuzzy one.
Mm-hmm. And so for those of you who are listening on the podcast, you can actually see in this part here, so in the previous location where we were, the tide had been in, so it was coming all the way into the seawall, but here you can actually see those mud flats that I was talking about that go out for like 100 meters out into the bay. And so the waterfront here has a bunch of these kind of trees that have like almost partially blown over, and the trees have gone, well, I'm still alive, and have just kept growing along the ground as they've gone along. So there are these gorgeous little branches that you can sit on. And when you take a look around as well, there are all of these beautiful 2-story, they call them Queenslanders, where they're up on stilts. And it's all kind of wooden verandas and balconies and iron, corrugated iron roofs that sound You can't hear anything over them when it's raining because the rain is so loud on that tin roof, but it keeps everything kind of cool. And the reason why it's on stilts is kind of twofold. One, flooding. Two, air when it runs underneath the house actually keeps the house cool during summer. Yeah. So it reduces the need for things like air conditioning and whatnot, or at least it would if global climate change was not as large as it is
looming,
has become. So anyone who go Kahli.
I was just going to say I grew up living down one of these avenues that you can see sort of that spring up, sort of sprout out of the main esplanade there in a Queenslander. So very familiar with the Sandgate Queenslanders.
Beautiful. And anyone who's watched the Bluey cartoon would probably recognise this Queenslander style house as being the house that Bluey lives in as well. Yeah. So very beautiful and a lovely area. And to take a look at some of the other alternate paths, if we had gone to the lagoon, we would have met a little lagoon creature.
Oh.
If we had just decided to go that way. Also down the path of the library here with the wise owls, there's a little bit of Freemason mystery in the Freemason Hall there.
But one thing I'd be curious is if there's a pathway in which you might get to interact with any of the people, the crewmates of the Bramble Spirit. That'd be really interesting.
Well, it's interesting you should say that because there does appear to be a ghostly couple
that
you meet down one avenue here, potentially a ghost bride that you get to see. But you also visit the wave sculpture in another iteration of this path. And this is where you come across a kraken rather than mermaids.
Like you said previously, they kind of look like tentacles when you go and stand there. I think I've always seen it as almost kind of sinister, tentacly, spidery. I didn't actually realize till later it was called the wave and it's meant to be a wave, but it definitely has the feel of something maybe coming out of the ground or the ocean to snatch you up. So
this is the great thing about public art, isn't it? There's intention, and then there's what everyone else calls it. Like it reminds me of in Chicago where they've got the what is it called, the cloud ship, or the big silver piece of public artwork in Chicago, but everyone calls it the bean, and it really pisses off the artist Anish Kapoor. Hold on, let me look it up.
While you're looking that up, this the way this unfolds and the way this tale presents actually reminds me of one of my favorite video games of the last decade, called Return of the Obra Dinn, which is this incredible, it's just no other game is quite like it. It plays so uniquely, and you kind of start your kind of insurance historian, and you're trying to figure out what happened to this ship that has sailed back into harbor on its own. And so you start on the actual ship, and then you walk around, and you get these little flashbacks. And as you piece the mystery together of what happened to the crew, you get to see even more flashbacks, and so it feels like you're solving the puzzle while getting to uncover this entire mystery. And I think a lot of the way this one unfolds kind of reminds me of that, and it's a fantastic game.
Oh, cool. Sounds cool.
Beautiful. I am definitely going to have to look that up. So this is what I was talking about. So this is called Cloudgate, but everyone calls it the Bean, which really angers the artist Anish Kapoor. Anish Kapoor is the artist of fame who bought the Vanta Black paint and copyrighted it so no one else could use it, and started a whole bunch of art activism from a guy out of Britain called Stuart Semple. Check out the Just the Gist podcast if anyone hasn't seen Just the Gist, and the Anish Kapoor versus Stuart Semple. I highly recommend because the Bean's referenced, but that's what the this sculpture reminds me of is that like they might call it the wave, but everyone thinks of it as like tentacles.
Well, it's the beauty of art, which there are parallels to this. Once you put your art out in the world, it kind of only belongs to you so much as it belongs to everyone who's experiencing it. And it's the same with this story. I might, as the author, might have a timeline that I prefer and that I would like people to choose, whether it's because of, it's just, I like that story better, or it takes them to cooler locations. But at the end of the day, you're putting the story in the reader's hands for them to make the experience that they want out of it. And that's the beauty of it, really. So there are some parallels.
Exactly. And speaking of author and artist intention, Kahli,
Yes,
I would love for you to tell everyone here at Adventure Hour, like what it is, how did you kind of like not only come to do something like Story City, but like what is your background? What do you enjoy to create? What are you up to these days?
Okay, lots of questions. So I studied creative writing at university, and I've always been drawn to youth writing, so writing for children, writing for young adults. I love the way that those age groups, have this real pull towards magic and adventure, which are genres and story types that I've always really liked writing and reading myself. So I've pursued that sort of on the side for the last several years alongside my day job, and that's how I came to write for Story City, and was lucky enough to be chosen as one of the writers. And the reason I decided to write this story set in Sandgate was, like I said earlier, I grew up in Sandgate, went to primary school there and high school around there, and my family lived there for all of my childhood and teenagehood. And it's just this, it's like you can see when you go to visit there, and from this Google photos that we've seen during this video, it's got this real mix of, it's a seaside town. It's not like a bustling surfers paradise type town. It's, this small seaside village or suburb, but it has all these beautiful historic buildings still there. So there's the post office. We didn't see it today, but the town hall is this other really beautiful historic building. Even that church you saw on the corner. My primary school where I went, Catholic primary school where I went to school, just these beautiful historic buildings. And when you've got kind of heritage, anything sort of old heritage historic buildings makes you think of ghosts naturally. I know there's something about history and ghosts, obviously, that go hand in hand. So immediately I was like, I want to write a ghost story set in Sandgate. And then obviously, because it's by the sea, the idea of a ghost ship story made sense to explore that connection between the sea and hauntings and maritime and ghosts, because again, there's something about the sea, it's just so vast and mysterious that it lends itself very well to ghost stories. So that's how that came about. And then lately, so I'm still pursuing my writing on the side of my day job. Again, I'm still drawn to the idea of writing for youth, though I've also been dabbling in adult fiction lately as well. But during the day, I keep busy working. So I live in New Zealand now. I've lived in New Zealand for the last several years. And I actually work in this really interesting space called a film office. So I manage the local film office here in Queenstown, which is down the South Island of New Zealand amongst the beautiful mountains. And a film office kind of sits between the film industry and local government council, where I help to connect the film industry with what they need from council in terms of permits and other requirements like that, and also play a strategic role in helping to grow the film industry here, which is just really cool job to have. Emily's just bringing up some pictures of Queenstown. It's such a beautiful place. You'd recognize that. Yeah, it's so cinematic. So of course, lots of film productions come here. Lord of the Rings is a big one. So much of the scenery around here featured in Lord of the Rings. But there's been some other pretty recognizable productions over the last few years. Disney tend to come here to film. We had Pete's Dragon. We've had Mulan. Mulan was in the last couple of years filmed around the area. You have The Power of the Dog, which was a Jane Campion Western, because actually you get a little bit outside of Queenstown. It all looks like the Wild West, essentially, which was, I didn't realise New Zealand had those landscapes till I came here. There are parts of it that look like Montana and the real kind of Wild West locations that, which makes sense because we do have a rich gold rush history here. So, yeah, and so there's that one there that looks like Queenstown has its own Hollywood sign, just up the top I saw. But yeah, because of that, that's superimposed. But yeah, we've attracted international production spheres because of how beautiful and cinematic the place is. And yeah, I have the privilege of helping those productions do what they need to do here, and also trying to grow the local industry. Film has a really huge economic benefit to local communities, generates jobs and business. I think people just think Hollywood, glitz and glamour, it's the actors, the directors, the producers who make money off film, but it has the potential to generate a lot of fantastic employment for locals and put money into the local economy. So there's also an element of that I do in this role. So it's a really great in working in between the creative side of the film industry and also kind of government and strategy, which helps with someone who's a bit of a left and right brained type person like me. Love creativity, but also like Monday to Friday 9 to 5 job. So, and it also means that because I've got a pretty steady job, I write in the mornings, wake up early in the mornings and I write, and do it in the evenings when I've still got energy, and on the weekends as well. So still writing, and don't have anything that I can share at the moment. I do have an agent who...
Congratulations! That is very hard to do, Brett. Getting a book agent is a pain in the butt.
It is, yes. So you normally celebrate that almost as much as you would a publishing deal, and it is the step before. In a lot of cases, it's the step before that, but I'm still pursuing. I've got a few books I've completed, and would love to have one or several of those on bookshelves one day. So that's still in the works.
Well, I mean, what I can say from going through that wonderful adventure there is that you have the writing chops, Kahli, and I know that we're going to see those books on the bookshelf one day, 100%.
Oh, thank you. And I recently, I was just in Brisbane last week, so all my family is still in Brisbane. Love the city, and going back there, I think because when you go back to somewhere where you grew up, you think about kind of that wonder you had in your youth. And I was just, it's sort of going back home and going to Sandgate and going around Sanford where my dad lived sort of reinstilled that sort of wonder I had as a child, which I always really loved, immersing myself in books and writing as when I was younger, which is why I've wanted to kind of give that back and write for younger audiences in my grown-up life. And that kind of reinvigorated my passion recently. So
that makes sense that one of your first choices was the Sandgate Library then.
Yes, yeah, I had to. Oh, yeah, I spent so much time there as a kid. Had to, stick to that book limit that they set you, like 8 to 10 books or whatever it is, because I just walk out with a towering pile. So yes, I did want to go there, but I had to stay true to the character, and we went in a different direction. But it's a lovely old building and a great library for anyone who's visiting and wants to check it out.
Beautiful. Well, as always, if you want to see what different choices would have sent you in Sandgate, you can always go to Sandgate in person with the Story City app and walk through the streets of Sandgate, making your own choices. If you are not in Brisbane, though, and you are like Kahli, stuck in another country, you can always do it via spoiler mode, where you can tap your way through that adventure and see what would happen if you chose differently, depending on those choices from the comfort of your own home. So downloading the app from about.storycity.app app will be able to get you that. The Curse of the Bramble Spirit is the story that you want to go for. And so you can see more of Claire's work. You can hear the wonderful audio sound design from Divi, and you can see more of Kahli's brilliant and awesome work. For anyone who is interested, our adventure hour next week is going to be with the lovely Isabel Carmody, who is the award-winning author of the Obed Newton series, and so she did a story also in Brisbane called The Omicron, which after the pandemic has a little weird ring to it, and particularly so when you realize that this particular Omicron also kind of involves a little bit of zombie-esque disease-related themes in the story. It feels like she's looked into the future a little bit, but that's, Isabel in a nutshell, I feel like, whenever you read any of her books. So she will be on next week on Adventure Hour. We'll be doing the Omicron and seeing if we are the one who can save Brisbane. So that will be next week, next Thursday night again if you're in North America, Friday if you are in Australia. Until then, it was absolutely lovely to go adventuring with all of you. Thank you so much for joining us, Kahli. Thank you so much, Brett.
Thank you.
And we will see everybody next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.